Welcome to the Mom Self-Care Podcast, your safe space to finally focus on YOU. I'm Twitty-Hawkins, your self-care coach for moms, praying wife, and mom of four. And I know that being a Christ-centered mom is such a beautiful calling, but it can be so draining. That's why it's important to make sure you are filling your own cup. On this podcast, we'll discuss practical, holistic self-care strategies to help nurture your mind, body, and spirit. Because a mama who fills her own cup pours that back into her family with true peace and joy. Tune in for honest conversations about motherhood and self-care because you matter too. Blessings, mamas, and welcome to the Mom Self-Care Podcast. I am Twitty-Hawkins, your host and self-care coach for moms. And today I have with me special guest, Mrs. Latika Vines. Thank you.
Hello.
And she's going to be sharing with us about work-life balance. And this is so important. So Latika, can you share a little bit about yourself with our audience?
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me. It's always a blessing to be with you, to be in your presence. A little bit about me. I am a working mom empowerer, where I truly help you as a working mom who's in a season of uncertainty, feeling unfulfilled right now, and really just don't know where your faith is, where it lies. I help you to understand that everything you do, God has had a vision for that. Whether it's your career, your family, your work-life balance, whatever it is, He has a vision. And so I help you to be that mom who gains her power, gains her strength from God, being in alignment with God and allowing you to understand that your career and your family responsibilities are all synced in with Him. And once you sync in with Him, you will have that fulfilling work-life balance that you are dreaming of, you are craving for, but it's only when you are aligned with Him that you receive it.
Amen. Amen. I love that. Making sure everything is connected with God. So what inspired you to start Visionary Initiatives?
It was really out of my own struggle. Being a mom like you, I have 4 beautiful children on this side of heaven. And, I struggled with my last one. And I did not know what that struggle looked like until I was diagnosed with postpartum depression. I had no idea that was quote unquote real, if we're being honest. And so with that diagnosis, I had to rest. I had to take care of myself. And mind you, my daughter was only 8 months at the time. And I still had 3 other children that I had to take care of and breastfeeding and all the things and still working full time. And so when I was able to take that rest and understand that with this diagnosis, I have to get better, that I heard God clearly say, okay, now Latika, that you're better, it's time for you to go help other working moms who are in the same predicament as you. Since then, and that was September of 2018, I have been on a mission to seek after those working moms may not have been diagnosed with postpartum depression, but have those symptoms of postpartum depression, are feeling unfulfilled, feeling like life just is not the way you envision it right now, to help them to be able to be in alignment with God. And so I started my consulting and coaching organization in September of 18. And here we are years later, 7 years to be exact, this September. And we've been training, we've been coaching, we've been consulting, we've been doing all the things. Our podcast is celebrating 5 years this year. Like there's so many things that we've been able to do, but my own struggle of postpartum depression is what inspired me to start Visionary Initiatives.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. That God was like, okay, now it's time to help.
Exactly.
I totally feel that. Like you're like, okay, they say your tests, your trials, they are not just for you. You go through them, you overcome them. Now it's time to help others do the same.
Absolutely. And it makes you stronger when you are able to share. It makes you stronger and it makes the person you're sharing with stronger. And it also allows the person to know that they're not alone.
Mm-hmm. A lot of moms struggle with balancing their personal lives and their careers. And I often say with self care, it starts with a mindset shift. So, for those moms that struggle with that, what mindset shifts do they need to make?
Absolutely. One thing, a couple things, but two things that have stuck out with me is to be hot, HOT, and DNP. So I'm going to break it down for you. In the words of Michael Todd, Pastor Michael Todd of Transformation Church in Tulsa, Oklahoma, um, his biggest thing is if you want to be free and if you want to help others with their freedom, for them to get freedom, you have to be hot. You have to be honest, you have to be open, and you have to be transparent. And so you talk about the mindset shift, you have to be hot with yourself. You have to understand self. What can I do? What can't I do? What can I take on today? And what can't I take on today? And one thing that I do with the working moms that I coach and train is help them to facilitate a weekly brain dump. So I'm old school. I call myself dual citizenship because I was born in the 80s but raised in the 90s, which I believe is the best era ever. But with that, what I realized is that I'm so old school that I have to have a piece of paper and a pencil to do anything in life, right? I have to. So I take out a planner in my weekly brain dump and I ask myself the question, what are the things that I need to do in the upcoming week, in the following week? And write it all down so it's out of my head. And then I have to be hot with myself. What can I do? Realistically, what do I have the bandwidth or the capacity or the ability? What am I able to do?
Mhm.
And then I'm able to go ahead and add the things that I'm able to do, those priorities, those tasks, those errands, I'm able to add them to my calendar. And I also share it with my family. My family knows what's happening, what's not happening, what mommy's not doing, or some of those things that I have to have a conversation with my husband about and say, hey, can you take this on?
Mhm.
The other thing is DNP. I have to remember in my hot, honest, open, and transparency, I have to understand that I can't do everything perfectly. And I
Right.
had to remember that everything gets done and it may not be perfect. DNP, done, not perfect. And
Ah.
so when I am hot with myself, I understand I don't have the capacity for this. I don't have the bandwidth. And so because I don't have the bandwidth for this, I'm delegating to someone else. I'm delegating to, the kids. I'm delegating to my community. And for
Mhm.
me, that community looks like my neighbors. That community looks like the teachers at my kids' school because I've regained close relationships with them. And so I've used them, I've leaned on them to do certain things to help me in my family. I'm off, and let me just clarify, when they're not in school, when they're not teaching the kids, it's after hours, but they're here to help me. This could also be my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, my parents, siblings. I delegate, and I had to understand, which many of us suffer from this perfection syndrome,
Mhm.
that if it's not done my way, it's not perfect, that it's not done right, and only
Mhm.
I can do it. But how are we teaching others and how are we allowing others to use their strengths if we are hoarding everything? We cannot do that. And God did not design us to do that. And quite honestly, God only created man, the male gender, if you will, to have broad shoulders, to carry more things. He did not care or create us as females to have broad shoulders to carry everything. He did not give us the title or the responsibility of provision. He did not give us the responsibility of protector. He ultimately is our provider and our protector. And he also gave that assignment to the male. We are the helpmate. And guess what? The helpmate delegates. The helpmate understands that everything is not going to be done to her liking, to how she did it, but it's going to be done. And so we have to, that mindset shift, understand that not everything is going to be done our way, but it's going to be done. So yes, it does take a lot of work. And I do work with the moms that I coach on how to do that mind shift of how to understand that you don't have to do everything and everything doesn't have to be done at once. But when you are able to make that mindset shift, not only do you gain clarity, but you gain freedom. Freedom to do the things that you are equipped to do. You are destined to do. You are designed to do, because we were not created to do everything.
Girl, that was so good. Oh my goodness. I don't know if you saw me. I had to write down DNP.
Yes.
Done, not perfect. Oh my gosh. Because we do struggle with, I was listening to another podcast and it was about decision fatigue. And she was like, I tell my husband, they were talking about how to be clear on letting your husband know, I don't want to make any decisions today. And it's by actually saying, I don't want to make any decisions today. And then she's like, but you can't, when he makes a decision, you can't be like, well, what? Why did you do that? And da da da, because it's not your way or it's not perfect. I was like, oh, yeah, I had to write that down. That was good. What role does self-care play in creating a healthy work-life balance?
Self-care is a priority. It is the number one thing you need to have that fulfilling work-life balance. For a second, I'm going to be hot. For me, self-care is waking up in the morning before everyone else and taking care of me. And that looks like working out first thing in the morning. And when I say workout, like I'm working out. I'm sweating, my head is sweating, my hair is sweating, because I'm taking care of me and letting go of whatever it is that's stressing me whatsoever. I also make sure that I take care of or nurture the relationship that I have with God. And so before anyone gets up in the morning, before I work out, I earnestly spend time with God. Every day that looks different. Some days that could be a walk outside and I'm in nature and I'm just in awe of what God is doing. But what I'm doing is I'm taking care of me, nurturing that relationship with God, because at the end of the day, God is what empowers me. God empowers me through his strength, through his might, through everything, through his grace, to allow me to do the things that I need to do for my family responsibilities, my work, my business, my everything that I do. I'm empowered by God. So I have to make sure that I nurture that relationship with him and that I study and meditate on his word every single day. And that's prayer, that's fasting, that's all the things, journaling with him in the morning. And my husband told me that when I started doing that, spending time with God first before I did anything else in the morning, that I was a better person. And so because he told me that, I make sure that that's what I do, because I know that if he's empowering me, if God is empowering me, then I'm going to be able to gracefully do all the things that I need to do for my family and everything else. And so I'm spending time with God. I'm working on myself physically, strength training, cardio, you name it. I also make sure that even though I work full time, I take moments throughout my day to get up and do nothing. And so if that means I walk, around the atrium in the building, that's what I do. If that means I go outside, I have nothing in my ears because I need to be with myself, that's what I do. So I do that throughout the day. And you have the periodic, spa moments and things like that. But self-care for me, honestly, is resting. It is resting in God, surrendering and trusting Him, because I realize that when I surrender and trust Him, that everything else is taken care of. I'm taken care of. My family's taken care of. Finances are taken care of when I rest in Him. But self-care is going to look different for all of us. But for me to be able to balance all the things that I have to make sure my first priority is taking care of myself. And that includes nurturing the relationship I have with God, and also making sure that my husband and I are on one accord, because life is not good. Life is not grand if you take care of everything else, but you don't nurture the relationship with your husband.
Right.
So that's part of self-care too. My husband and I, we check in with each other every single day. And, again, self-care looks different for everyone. But if my relationship with my husband and I are not good, then how can I really take care of myself, And so I'm so blessed that, I have a husband who is very supportive, and him and I are on the same page, and we are in alignment with 99.5% of things, that I'm able to have that self-care. And then he's also to have that as well.
Yes, everybody should have it. Yes. I love
Mm-hmm.
how you talked about taking those little, I call them pockets of time, like
Mm-hmm.
at work to give it. I remember during COVID when the kids were at home, doing school at home, and they did like a brain break. I had to tell them, hey, you need to give yourself a brain break off that computer. Let your brain breathe, let your brain relax, let your brain, like you said, rest, rest.
Yeah, so good. So good. We need it.
Mhm. So you've worked with organizations that support working moms. What policies or changes have you seen that made the most impact?
Such a good question. I honestly would say flexibility is
Ah,
probably the number one policy effective change that organizations I've seen and worked with have been successfully implemented, and have been successful on both ends, on the employer end and an employee end. And it's so interesting that we're having this conversation, because this is my jam. I love this. I love policies. I love being strategic. Like, this is my jam. And one of the things that I saw is that, it's great that we have the lactation room. You know, it's great that we have the opportunity to, park for free, like all the incentives that employers give. But in order for a working mom, for a working parent, for a caregiving employee to be effective, to be an effective and productive employee, there needs to be flexibility. And again, you have all these things in the world which are really great and are needed. But honestly, I have come in a closet or in a conference room if I have the flexibility to leave at a certain time every single day to get my kids off the bus.
mhm.
And I've done it. I have pumped in the back of a commuter bus because I had the flexibility to leave at like 2:30 in the afternoon to make sure I see my kids off the school bus.
Mm.
It's those things that matter. Not saying lactation rooms don't matter, because they do. Lord
Mm.
Jesus, we've come a long way, from where we were before and what our parents had experienced and our grandparents. But the flexibility, organizations having 4 hours of, like 10 to 2. And during that time, you have to be there. You have to be there. But before 10 and after 2, you have the flexibility to be home, be with your children, and be able to cook dinner or go to those baseball and football and track and whatsoever meat that you have on your plate. It's the flexibility. It's the flexibility where I can have a schedule that allows me to work 4 10s, where I'm able to work 4 days a week, 10 hours a day, or the opportunity where I'm able to take off every other week if I work 1 week 9 hours a day, and then the next week I'm able to work 3 days for 9 hours and 1 day for 8 hours just to get that next day off. Those are the type of flexibilities that have been successful in helping working parents, caregiving employees to be able to balance their life at work and at home. It's the flexibility, and having leaders not only initiate the flexibility by approving the policies and having the wellness groups that are really responsible for providing employees with the work-life balance resources, but they are actually taking a part in it, that they're leading by example. Because we have so many organizations that say, oh yeah, flexibility is great. Oh yeah, I'm so glad that we have this well resource for our employees, but they don't take advantage of it. And because they're not leading by example, other employees are not using it, and they don't know anything about it because it's not communicated. So by having leaders take advantage of their resources, that is what makes an organization successful in retaining their caregiving and working parent workforce, but also attracting
Mm.
other caregiving and working parents to their workforce. So it goes both ways, but I've seen the flexibility in my own schedule and in the organizations that I've worked with has been instrumental for them, for their productivity, and then also for the employee to be effective. Because with flexibility, you lower your absentee rate, you lower your sick leave, those that have sick leave, PTO, you lower the opportunity for them to take it because they have the flexibility. They have the flexibility to go to the doctor in the morning before they go to work or after work. They have the flexibility to do that. So, it's so important for us to remember that our employees are humans too. They're not robots. And by giving them that flexibility, you have the loyalty. They will be there forever, and they will be productive. They will be effective in your organization.
Mm. That's such a good point. My husband, he cares for his father who has dementia. He has Parkinson's. Well, dementia is part of that. But they just got him a caregiver, like just got him one. But before that, my husband, he's leaving work early or calling in. Well, not calling in, using sick time because he had to take him to go to the doctor to his appointments. So when you were saying that, I was like, oh, like that really is a good point. That really is a good point. And having
Oh,
that time,
yeah.
the core hours you said, where you
Yes.
have to be here, and then because we know for whatever reason they like to have events for the kids during the hours that they know.
I don't know
Right.
why.
You're
Like,
right. They like
why
to
have
have.
an assembly at 9:30 in the morning when most of us are at the office?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. They like to have those things or events like around 3 o'clock or 3 or 4.
Mhm.
when they know parents at work. So yeah, I think that's a great idea. Great idea.
Absolutely.
She said, why?
Absolutely.
Why?
Yeah, I don't get it. And it's like, like same with doctor's offices. Why can't you open past 5 o'clock? You know, you know, you know. So
Yeah.
again, that flexibility is so important because you are able to still be there,
Hmm.
and just like you said, you hit home. Your husband has to take care of his family member, and he has to take leave, and he is the energy that it takes to be productive at work, and then the energy it takes to be effective and productive and present caring for a relative, a family member,
Hmm.
that's even more. And so by the time he gets to you guys, he's drained.
Yep.
He is
Yep.
drained because it's a lot. It's a lot that he's had to do in 24 hours, and he's not getting enough sleep. So he's exhausted, and the list goes on and on and on.
Hmm.
And so that flexibility allows for us to be able to balance what we have going on. And studies have shown that many of us in the workforce, which are still baby boomers, Generation X, and millennial, we are caring for someone. If it's not our children, it is our parents. And so there has to be an opportunity for organizations to recognize this, use the data to recognize it, and take the action necessary. Because one thing that is different from our parents and our grandparents is that these generations coming up have options. We do not have to stick with an organization for 30 years and collect our pension. In
Hmm.
fact, we are going elsewhere, putting our money in a Roth IRA somewhere, and that stays where it is, and it goes, it carries, it makes money as we put in, and we are not loyal to one organization. So if that's the case, if we no longer have we have options, we no longer have to stick with one employer, why aren't we as employers doing more for our employees?
Right.
It's such a vital question that we all as employers have to ask ourselves if
Mhm.
we truly care.
Right. For a mom who is stuck in what she feels like is an unsupportive work environment and she may be feeling overwhelmed or burnt out, what is one thing you would tell her to do today to maybe set healthy boundaries?
I think it goes back to being hot with yourself. What is it that you can do and what is it that you can't do? And be honest with yourself, be transparent. If I can't do this, or if I don't have the opportunity to have the balance that I need to manage everything, what am I doing? What am I doing? Why am I wasting my time and why am I wasting their time?
Mm.
And quite honestly, being hot with ourselves, we have to understand that we have the permission to change the narrative. We no longer have to rely on other people or sit in their projections and make it our reality. We have the permission to change the narrative. So if there's something that we don't like, we have the permission to change it, to say no, and no, N-O, period, is a complete sentence. We do not have to explain ourselves. And I know we as women, we are famous for explaining our answers, our responses to everything. We're famous for that. But N-O is a complete sentence, and we do not have to explain anything. We don't. And so really understanding you got to be hot with yourself, and then that you have the permission to change the narrative. And if that means this is not the employer for you, then this is not the employer for you. If that means this is the season where you have to sit still and you have to bite your tongue in order to, while you're biting your tongue, you're working on your next, then that's
Mhm.
what you have to do. but you have the permission to change the narrative. You don't have to stay. You don't have to keep quiet. We have the permission. No longer do we have to keep a muzzle over our mouth and not speak anything, to speak what we need or how we need it. We have the permission. And with the way AI is going these days, use AI to help you to figure out how to say what you need to say or write what you need to say. You have the permission to change the narrative. Use what's around you to change your situation.
Yes, you have permission, ladies. So, Latika, what's your favorite form of self-care?
Oh, my favorite form of self-care is hiking up a mountain.
Okay.
I love it. I love the mountain. I love it.
That sounds
It's the
nice.
best. Yes. It's so freeing. You get clarity. It's, of course, it's strenuous because you're hiking, and I'm talking about a real mountain, a real mountain where you scrape yourself, your legs, your arms, your head. You scraping everything. It's the best for me. It is the best form of self-care because I'm with myself. I'm with God out in His nature. It's amazing. And then when I come back, I'm so free and relaxed. You just don't know how relaxing it is when you're doing work, when you're hiking, but it's a beautiful experience. So yeah, that's my favorite form of self-care.
That's awesome. And do you have a free gift for our audience?
Absolutely. So if you go to empoweringtheworkingmom.com, you're able to download our Empowering the Working Mom workbook, which has so many nuggets in there on how you can lean on God to empower you to balance life, and some really great tips on how to rest in God, how to truly surrender and trust Him in everything.
Amen. And you mentioned your website. Where else can our audience members find you?
Absolutely. So I am on social media, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram at Visionary Initiatives, one word. And then I'm also available on Twitter at Latika_Vines.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here with us and sharing about work-life balance.
Yes, thank you for having me.
I don't know about you ladies, but I definitely got some nuggets. So make sure you share this with a mama that you love. Save it, come back, listen again. Guys, I always say, take notes and leave a review if this blessed you. Until next time, take care. God bless. Thanks so much for joining me for the Mom Self-Care Podcast. I hope you feel inspired to make yourself a priority too. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Share this podcast with another mama you love and leave a review. Also, feel free to let me know what you would like to hear about in future episodes by visiting me on Instagram at CIC Inspire Me. Until next time, take some time to take care of YOU because you matter too.